how was Dave? If you can chime in on this, how
Hmm.
was the rings forged? Like was it the elves that forged the first rings first?
Sure.
And can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I can do a little bit on that. First of all,
Hmm.
I'm not a Tolkien scholar. I've just read a bunch of his stuff over the years. Um, God, how far back to go? So the elves didn't come up with, "Hey, let's make the ring." Once again, I haven't seen any of the episodes other than the first one,
Hmm.
and everything I've read, I'm never going to watch these just because I have taste.
Uh-huh.
So the way the rings came about is Sauron basically, in his fair form, came to the elves as a character named Anatar, the gift bringer, I believe is, or the Lord of Gifts,
Hmm.
and he taught Celebrimbor and his jewel smiths how to make bound rings, basically powered rings. But what he taught them was a way to bind them, but they didn't know they all had like evil throughout the rings. So the rings in their basic creation were evil. So the jewel smiths made the 16 rings, the ones for the dwarves and the humans, while Celebrimbor on his own kind of went away and made his own, so that Sauron, slash Anatar had nothing to do with those three rings. So they were tainted because they used the same formula, but they weren't completely, under the power of Sauron. So the second the One Ring was created, Celebrimbor was able to detect what was happening. That this One Ring will basically overpower all the other rings and take us over. So the elves took the rings off and hid them. This was, I believe, around 1500 in the Second Age. So you can see how much lore has already been broken.
Uh-huh.
So the elves were only able to use the rings at the beginning of the Third Age when Sauron's finger was chopped off and the ring basically was lost because the ring, once no one has the ring, the rings can't be controlled. So they were able to use them then, and that's what how they use this crap about mithril keeps the elves
Hmm.
around. Well, the rings are what did that. That kept them from dissolving or whatever terms they're using. So that's how they were able to stay around through the entire Third Age. So Galadriel had hers, and two others went to two other elf lords, and those areas um, were in the dominion of the elves and were kept nice, clean, and pure. So the
Okay.
second the One Ring was destroyed, that was the power source for the rings. That just basically obliterated the power for all the 19 other rings. So that's why the elves had to leave. So I
Oh,
leave
I
anything out?
see. No, okay. So okay. According to what you know, because we saw three of them in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
What are Nazguls?
Nazguls are the corrupted human kings. They may not all be kings. There, I don't think that was ever really specified other than one person. They
Hmm.
were like heroes and kings of humanity.
Hmm.
The Nine Rings to the humans, they were corrupted over time and became Nazguls.
Okay.
The rings that went to the dwarfs in Tolkien have very strong magic resistance. So they basically nothing bad happened to them other than they got more greedy. They basically
Mm,
started getting hordes of mithril hordes of gold, gems and all that stuff. Much more than they previously had done.
okay. So the reason why I asked, and for me, I was like, no, like yeah, because Nazguls were like the kings, right? They did the original nine,
Mhm.
and those were basically the ring wraiths, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in this episode, when those three like nomad people like discovers that Gandalf is not Sauron, and like he gets like a staff and he does this sort of like big beam of light, it basically like removes their like actual like I guess human flesh, and they're basically your first three female Nazguls.
Wow.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I was like, what the? I was like, wait,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, yeah, it was the most dumbest thing. I'm like, are you,
Mhm.
what? I was like, what is happening?
Have
So
they read any of these books?
I don't, I don't,
No,
I don't,
apparently.
I don't. But yeah, it's when I saw that, I was literally upset. I'm like, wait, so it's sort of like how they did Doctor Who dirty. It's like, oh, you remember like the first Doctor is not actually who you think. Actually, before that, there's actually these like a young child Doctor, and it's sort of like they're trying to like retcon like the existence of like Nazgul's like first appearance, and now it's like this is like the first appearance, because of this damn show, and it's
Yeah,
just
they didn't come along for probably 100 years after the ring because it was a
Yeah,
slow degradation of their humanity into wraiths.
man.
exactly. The
So
rings
you,
Go.
are just about to begin to be made, and yet we already have ring wraiths for some reason.
so you want to know why this whole show pisses me off the most?
Hmm.
So as a fan of Tolkien, and
Mm-hmm.
there's millions of us out there, do you think, and I see a lot of posts all around, it's like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Well, what this show has done is basically mandated that no good Tolkien will probably be done for 20 years. No one else is going to buy the rights, for, $500 million to do
Mm-hmm.
something that is this bad. It's like maybe someone might get the Silmarillion or something, but then, it's just they have so corrupted the story that no executives are going to go, hey, let's throw $1 billion into this thing and see if we can revive it. So they've basically stolen this from the fans for the next 20 years.
It sucks, and the thing is like when you have like new people who are like getting into like Lord of the Rings, and they're like, oh, we really like the books. Maybe you watched one of the original movies, or you watched a cartoon back in the day, or even read the books. You're gonna want to like, oh, I want to read everything or know everything about like Lord of the Rings or anything that Tolkien has made that's revolving around the Lord of the Rings mythos. And then you come across this piece of shit, and then they're gonna be like, "This is wrong." It's like they're gonna think this is like canon, right? It's
Yes.
I think that's what they're trying to do, completely like erase what was good, and I think that's what like with all these remakes and like live action adaptations, it's like it's like for they're trying to completely change it for a new generation, and I man, it sucks. But Grae, what other scenes was there in the show that like, made you like super upset? Like I remember you mentioned like it's pretty trash.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the Harfoots after they save not Gandalf.
Hmm.
That farewell scene took way too long. The
Hmm.
Nori leaving the Harfoots behind to go on a journey with not Gandalf to Rune.
Yeah.
I yeah, I don't know the significance of Rune. Maybe he gets his memories back or his power. He amplifies his powers, but yeah, I'm gonna need some knowledge about the Rune thing. I don't know what Gandalf is after or what's his goal there. Apart from getting his memories back, I mean that's obvious, but yeah, I did not like that one too because it took way too long. They could have spent that time for other scenes.
Hmm.
And okay, no Durin, no dwarf or and yeah, no Balrog apparently, which I don't know why they even bothered to show that scene in the previous episode. So it's just like it just showed Balrog just to hype things up for no apparent reason.
You
Yeah.
got to have
Then
something for the trailers.
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. It's just to show off a trailer. Oh, we have a Balrog. Literally, that's it. That,
What what part that sort of made me like super upset too was what's it called, like, bringing back the whole part where like Gandalf in Fellowship was like, I have no memory of this place, right? And then they sit in the mines of Moria and look around, and then he's like, oh, we gotta go this way, and then he's like, you gotta follow your nose, right? And then of course he's like, hey, do you remember how like Gandalf said follow your nose? Yeah, we're gonna bring that shit back because Nora was like okay, cool, I'm gonna come with you, right? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna follow you since you're, you know, you should know where you should go. He's like, I have no idea where I'm going though, and he's like, follow your nose,
you
and he's
know.
like, oh my.
Gotta have those member berries.
Yeah, man, it's I I know you're supposed to feel maybe a little bit bad for Galadriel in this episode, but I started to hate her even more. It's what's it called again? Like I felt like this episode, what they were trying to do is like make her feel, you sort of like feel sad for her because, oh no, she was the one who did all these things. Maybe she's like, she has this sort of like revelation saying that like, oh, I'm like, I made a mistake. This is all my fault. We should like everything that's happened is because of me. But she does not take any ownership of that. And when confronted by Elrond, because Elrond's the one who saved her from like whatever the river that she was drowning in, and he's like, so where's Halbrand? And she's like, I'm not going. Basically, she didn't say anything. He's like, what's Halbrand? Like, where is he? Where did he go? He's not here anymore. And then she's like, we cannot do business with Halbrand anymore. He's bad for business. And then that was it. They didn't press any harder.
Wow.
Why did he leave?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like she knows his identity. She could have said something. Maybe could have prevented something from happening. I'm not sure. Maybe get some warriors looking for him and kill him. But nope, none of that happens. Oh man, I hate the show so much. I hate it.
We don't even know. We don't even know how Halbrand ended up in Mordor so quickly.
Imagine if you loved Tolkien for 40 years, how much you'd hate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, like and of course you get the what's it called again, the conversation. There was the article saying that like if you don't like Rings of Power, you're considered a fascist, neo right wing, Trump MAGA supporter, like all of the names in the book just because you don't like it. And I'm like, so am I considered a fascist now because I don't like it? It's literally saying that, hey, get with the times. Whatever you love and like about all of these stories that Tolkien has created, it doesn't matter anymore. Like we're here to stay, and it sucks.
And I hear they've started season 2 already.
They started shooting season 2 already. Oh.
So you think the writers learned any humility, or do you think it's going to be the same stuff?
It's likely going to be the same stuff based on what I'm seeing on their response.
That's really sad.
Though I've been watching videos before this podcast, maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make up for everything they've done so far. It's never going to be enough for everything they did in this first season.
So if you guys didn't have to review this for the podcast in 2 years, because it's going to come out 2 years, would you ever watch another episode?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would hope, in my opinion, within those 2 years, there's gonna be much better TV series or entertainment that we can cover instead. That's what I would think.
Man, do you know what sucks? It's what's it called again? I was watching this streamer. He was playing Resident Evil 8, and in his background music, he used Lord of the Rings music. And there's a scene where it's like you defeat the enemy, and then it has the same like music as like when Sauron finally gets destroyed, and then like when the happy part comes, it plays the Shire music, right? The really like really like happy music. And then just watching him play, like and listening with the background that fits so well, it's just like Kat started crying. It's because the music hit her really hard at like the correct spots. And then she's like, damn, it's just the music, it's so well done. And then in this episode, like one of the Harfoots and like Sadok or something like that, like he ends up dying. And then and I was like, so are you sad? And she's like, I have no emotional connection with any of these fucking characters.
Yeah, literally, especially Sadok. He wasn't exactly a good guy all throughout the series.
Come on, they only had what, 8 hours to pull you into the story. I mean, Phil or the original movies only were 9 hours for the whole thing. Come on.
Not including the extended director's cut. That's like what makes Return of the King like 4.5, almost 5 hours.
I just find it funny because I've read so many defenders of the shows basically saying, oh, it's a slow burn. Well, nothing's burning. It's just this slow, and once again, haven't watched it. I'm just reading stuff online. It's
Mhm.
just this slow nothing where nothing matters. Just things happen in the world.
Yeah.
It makes me want to punch a wall.
Yeah. Someone in chat says, by the way, I don't know anything about the lore, but what happened to the rest of the rings that were made? Could any of the elves' rings defeat Sauron's ring?
No, the elf rings were protection rings. The um the rings by their very nature were designed for like morale boosters or area protection, like Galadriel's ring. She couldn't leave. She couldn't join the Fellowship because if she left, her influence on the area would go with her, and things would start decaying. So Sauron's ring really wasn't, like a super weapon of any kind. It was, a controlling force on the other things. It wasn't like going to shoot lasers out of it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's man, it's
Yeah, they even I suddenly remembered they made it that it was Galadriel's idea to forge these three rings.
Yeah, she
yeah,
had
In
absolutely nothing to do with the rings.
yeah,
exactly
make three of
in
them.
yeah, it was her idea in Rings of Power. It was her idea to forge it to make it into three.
Did they have any of Celebrimbor's jewel smiths all in there? Because he had like a small army of smiths, making all the rings and
I saw
everything.
like two other ones. That's about it.
Yeah, it's two random dudes. Literally, even Celebrimbor doesn't know what he was doing. It
So
was all
how did he come up with how to make them?
Halbrand.
Halbrand told him how to make it.
Yeah, it's like,
So just
oh,
this
it's a good
random
idea.
dude had this knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
And it was like have say, hey, have you tried combining both of these metals together?
Yeah,
World class blacksmith, jewel crafter. Have you ever thought about putting two metals into
that's
one? And he's like,
one. It's like,
I've never thought
oh,
about
good
that.
idea. That's such a good
Yeah,
idea.
So
yeah, and then
basically, the rings were created only with metallurgy, not like tons of spells and incantations and things like that.
No.
nope. It was just like
Wow.
the most I've probably seen, like in terms of like maybe any type of like maybe magic, was more like a chain reaction of like they're supposed to put a lot of pressure into making the initial rings, but then like it blew up, and then Halbrand was like, maybe you're putting too much pressure. Maybe you're not supposed to. Maybe you're just supposed to just let them, you know, you know, uh, just coax with one another and just combine naturally. And he's like, we should try that right now.
And
Yeah.
even that scene, Galadriel gets credit because Halbrand wouldn't have thought of that if she hadn't entered the room and say, maybe we're trying too hard. Then Halbrand was like, oh, maybe we're putting too hard of a pressure on the metals and alloys. Like
So they
everything has to be Galadriel.
so
Everything
they
has to be Galadriel.
literally had Sauron in the room with Celebrimbor as he's making the three rings,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
specifically in the lore, not something that happened. Sauron didn't even know the three rings were being made.
Oh,
Celebrimbor went off on his own and made them.
No. It is apparently
yeah.
Sauron's idea.
Yep.
It's
There's all
Sauron's
him.
idea.
But by the transitive property, since Galadriel brought Halbrand to Celebrimbor, it's actually her idea to begin with. But oh man, it's such a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
And,
it's like
It's just,
that's
go
why I
ahead, go ahead.
keep going to different scenes because I don't know where to begin.
and I believe, and it's been like 15 years since I read it, but I think Galadriel's ring is the only one that has mithril in it. The other two, which blows apart the whole, metallurgy thing, it's just these metals. I believe the other two were made of different things, and they all had different rubies. I think hers had a ruby or a sapphire, but they were all very different rings. They were not the same. They were had a big gem. Each one had a big gem on it. There was a
Mhm.
ruby, a sapphire, and I think a diamond. Once again, been like 15 years.
Yeah, that I believe you're correct.
Yeah, I think
There was like
yeah, that's correct. There's
I
a blue
believe they're
one,
all
a red
different
one, and a
colors.
white one. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at least they're doing a little bit right.
Yeah.
In the
And
work
I
Teeny
believe
tiny
one of
bit.
them. Yeah. And I believe one of them did have Mithril, like specifically that. I think it was specifically Galadriel's one.
Hmm.
Like it's like, oh, we need something of that has gold and silver from
Yeah, that one.
Valinor.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Uh, because apparently the only way to forge these so-called rings is through the highest of the high quality of gold and silver, which apparently is coincidentally Galadriel's dagger. That's their only source of gold and silver of the highest quality. Not no There's nowhere else it can be found, nowhere else. So it's added like Galadriel's sacrifice by handing over her brother's dagger to forge the rings.
So are
I
they
don't
saying a weapon was made out of a very soft metal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone in chat said, slow burning of my soul and time. Yeah, it's it's bad. It's bad. And yeah, man, I don't even know what's gonna happen with what season 2. And the fact that Dave, you mentioned that it was gonna be coming out in like 2 years. Oh man, everyone's gonna be it's I have a feeling this is going to be like what's that called again? Westworld season 3, I believe. I remember I watched the first and second season of Westworld, and then it took so long for season 3 to come out. Like I completely forgot that it came out, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. Of like I'm here. I heard a bunch of bad reviews about it, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. So I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen with this show. But the thing is that I'm pretty sure this is gonna be everywhere, right? Whenever you whenever you log into Amazon, you're gonna see
Amazon.
Rings of Power. Whenever you receive a package from Amazon, Rings of Power packing tape. It's gonna
Yep.
literally gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, my last like 15 Amazon packages were branded Rings of Power all
Mhm.
over the box.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
it sucks,
trying really
man.
hard.
Well,
Oh,
$1 billion goes a long way.
yep, true, man. It's and this is probably like the show that I really hoped they didn't fuck it up. And of course,
Yep.
like when I heard they're going to be making a Lord of the Rings show based off of current in the current day or in the modern day, I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is going to be shit. And just hearing about like stuff that's supposed to happen in the book, and like given like the second age that we're in right now is just basically independency. It's
Yeah.
a super small section of the book, and their reasoning and their excuse behind it is like, well, Tolkien didn't not say that this wasn't in the book, so we're gonna put it in the book or in the show or something like that.
Well, as far as I know, Tolkien never said aliens came down and gave Galadriel spaceships, right? So that's free range, right?
Give them any ideas.
The really sad thing about this is everyone who's a big fan of the show says, all these very harsh things about the people who don't like the show.
Mhm.
If they had just made a good show, no one would care about all the little, you know, swapping of races, swapping male to female, changing characters a little bit. They just made a good, entertaining show, with some changes like Peter Jackson had to do. No one would
Mhm.
give a shit. But when you do
True.
all that and then you make a shitty show, it just amplifies everything and people just get really pissed off.
Yeah, and that's how I feel with what's it called again? Game of Thrones, right? You're basically adapting something from a book into a TV series.
Hmm.
But the thing is that you're adapting an appendice that has maybe several pages versus you're adapting a book that has a bunch of like actual like source material stuff from the book. And the according to what I know, the Game of Thrones stuff isn't one to one. It's not. It's far from it. But the thing is that they change when they changed the characters. I feel like they changed it for like to either make it to make more sense or to have a character like a fan favorite character not be so boring. According to what I know, I think Brienne of Tarth was supposed to be like like um like a soldier just looking for Arya mindlessly, and she never ends up finding her or something like that. but in the book, I mean, in the show, they made her more likable, and she actually finds Arya and stuff like that. And I have a feeling that these people just want to just make this show because they know that people are going to watch it, and they don't really care about the fans.
And they got paid already.
Yep. Basically, it's like, here we're already investing like several billions of dollars for you to make this to make the show. Have at it. And Jeff Bezos basically like, we want our own version of Game of Thrones, and it's definitely not going to hold up. I have a feeling it's going to suck.
As two people who've watched it, and I can tell loathe it, how much would your opinions have changed if I guess it's episode 8, the last one, if they had made it where Galadriel actually learned a lesson? She grew in some way. It sounds like no change, no character development on any level happened to any characters over 8 hours of storytelling. Could they have brought it back to, is there any way that you see that they could have episode 8 made you go, oh, I get why they were doing all that? Or was it just such a shit show from day one that they couldn't pull it out of the fire?
What are your thoughts, Grae?
I don't think one finale episode would suffice to unfuck all the things they've done in the first 7. At least that's my opinion. I mean, maybe there's going to be character development, but if ever there was, which there wasn't, it's not going to be, and it wouldn't be suffice to make up, oh, so that's why they did this, that's why they did that. I mean, they're literally the greatest twist they could pull off in this final episode was everyone knew all along that Halbrand was actually Sauron. That's literally the biggest twist in this episode, which is, no, not really. I don't think it would be suffice to make up for the entire season.
Thanks for checking out this segment of the Project Eggroll podcast. If you like what we do here, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will know next time when we go live. We do go live every Saturday at 8 p.m. Once again, we are just getting started. Tons of more video to come. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next time.